Okay. So nice to see you again, everyone. Good evening, and hi, guys, online. So welcome to the second reading for the Center for Poetry and Poetics, and the second hybrid reading, which means that this is the first term that we're trying to do something both online and real life setting. So your readers will be sometimes looking at the online audience as well, and sometimes they're not being rude and they're not ignoring you. They're trying to kind of try and do a multi-perspectival reading of some sort. So it's really nice to see you all, and today or tonight we're going to have a special reading. I think it's slightly bit more informal compared to the other ones in the schedule. Informal because it's an in-house reading for our so-called precious alumni who in one way or another have been affiliated or are affiliated with creative writing and the School of English, whether they've done an MA here or whether they have done a PhD here, or whether they've done both, or whether they've already gone but they still lurk around. Whichever way, but all the six of them have been working with us at some point. So it's really lovely to see them and to see them around in Sheffield, and also to see them still working, and some of them working on really beautiful publications and publishing projects at the same time. So this we've got quite a lot to get through today, but we'll have just short readings. Each poet or writer, prose writer, will read 10 to 15 minutes from their work, old or new, and there will be just a 5-minute bathroom break. This event is recorded, so you will be able to see the YouTube version of it at some point if you're interested. At the end, I'm going to just quickly talk a little bit about the plans for November, the program and the schedule, and about some of the next term's projects. We're going to divide tonight into two halves, and I'm just going to introduce the first three writers to start with, and in the second half I'll introduce the next three. So really pleased to welcome back here Benjamin Dory to start with, who writes poems that focus on communicating mad experiences. He's fascinated by the ways in which poetry provides a space in which mad thinking can be expressed with less risk of being pathologized or psychologically framed, and where form and musicality in language can work to nod toward the ineffable in ways prosaic language struggles to. His first pamphlet, A Mad Journey Around the Seven Hills of Sheffield, was published by Spirit Duplicator in 2017, and his work has been also anthologized and appeared in various journals. Ben occasionally self-publishes poems, photographs, and thoughts on benjamindory.com. He's currently working in a PhD at the University of Sheffield with us, part-time, while also working in mental health services to deliver training around the language, narrative, and recovery to NHS staff. And Ben's been also doing some teaching for undergraduate creative writing last term, and next term as well will be. The second reader in the first half will be Vera Fibisan, freshly doctored, who has recently completed a PhD with us at the University of Sheffield in English literature and creative writing. Veronica is the editor of the creative writing journal Route 57, which you I'm sure have heard of, and also the ASLE UK postgraduate and early career representative, which I'm sure will be saying a few words She's notably published poetry in various places, some of which are the Sheffield Anthology, which came out in 2012 by Smith Dorster Poetry Business. Cast, the Poetry Business Book of New Contemporary Poets, also by Smith Dorster in 2014. Plumwood Mountain Journal, the Wretched Strangers Anthology, which came out by Boiler House Press in 2018, and Pan in 2019 and 20. Also in Voices for Change, which was another anthology in 2020, so really recently. And real lovely welcome to you, Vera. Vera's also been teaching, God knows for how many years now, at the undergraduate creative writing modules and pathway. And the third reader for the first half will be Loma Silvana Jones, who is a Sheffield-based poet. She is inspired by place and the movement of people, and often writes about how identity manifests in and is altered by person's surroundings. Loma is currently working on her creative writing PhD with us, looking at BIPOC, BIPOC in contemporary poetry, which perhaps you can tell us a little bit about in your introduction if you want to. So this will be the first half an hour, so enjoy. The only thing I will ask you is to speak a little bit louder than you would normally do because of the
Yeah, this thing hasn't. So, like Agi said, I'm currently working on a project which is all about sort of poetic representations of madness, both sort of academic and creative work is around that. But as Adam will know, I've spent a long time trying to write a project which was based around the centrepiece, which was about communicating an experience of being locked away in a psychiatric ward, and how that might read internally or mouthily. And it turns out what I needed was to get locked in my house by the government, which I agreed with, by the way, for several months of last year and start of this year. And I don't know, somehow reconnected me with those experiences in a sort of oblique way. And so today I'm going to read a sequence of poems, which is about that kind of experience, and really, I guess, this Blakean notion that mad experience is meaningful of itself, in and of itself. And I'm very inspired by people who write their madness without sort of attempting to decode it for the same. And that's what the sequence of poems attempts to do. So, an entrance, part 1. Fluorescent, flickering hum. Mine so fast a light tube slows, strobes, the scene, dot motion, fractured. A door clicks closed. Clutched fingernails mark clammy palms, grasping, no going back. Behind safety glass, 3 pairs of eyes, buried in screens. Tired hands dancing familiar notes on practiced dirty keys. Black, blacks, inside. Tired improvisation around familiar motifs. Through greasy, finger-stained panes, the world chokes on sunlight. Daffodils breaking through soil and taverns in January. Each key turned in ignition, each beautiful contrail making the patchwork sky, tightens the chest, attesting the truth of its feelings. Thoughts well up, diluvian uncture to the blot of our being, but another flood of carefully crafted guilt returns the self. High water mark of hope is wiped from grey gloss wall with ease by the housekeepers. Sad chorus sung in hospec and stale smoke notes is locked in this void, away from ears that need to hear. To keep turning the wheel, snap the twig between the spokes, a clattering warning returned to steady whirring. We soon forget the disturbance. An entrance, 2. Door locked from the inside, yet marked by desperate scratches. Room cloaked with ash, tab ends spilling from plates onto threadbare floor. Thousands of nerve-shredded breaths. Scared, soiled corners ringed with the drone of dumb flies. Driven inside by the suspect gaze, shoppers crossing the street away from this lumbered Alanzafi wanderer. By the catch of doors click closed to avoid the question posed and vacantly creaking the floorboards. Small room's cacophony of criticism bears down on a coiled boy, on mattress springs vibrating with the weight of fear shaking the sunrise black, the becks trickle red beneath window. Inside images torture, hooded figures debased in first person, despite voices speaking your evil in language biblical and personal. Your angered father, mother, accents twanging guts like guitar strings until you're retching over the sink. Now rising, see my Antichrist, watching from the mirror, as your options shrink to ligature, knife blade, or an entrance into my flickering ellipsis. My eyes back orbs which eclipse the world, as you raise your hand to mine, silence approaching. And at this point in the sequence is a quote from Blake. It is very true what you have said. For these 32 years, I am mad or else you are. Though both of us cannot be in our right senses, posterity will judge us by our works. Untitled. Unconstellated. Unspoken. Though our globe eye slowly scans its every point of light each night. Though the ear hears its shape more sharply than the days. Though dreams defy the humdrum as the dark rides over horizons. Distant worlds and events distant in time draw near in the orbit of its atmosphere. Voices, too, increase in amplitude. We reach for each, but each becomes a chorus speaking multiples at once. The once upon a time revives, the rustling of the dead on every side. Gifts. We receive the gift of folding dawn into dusk by means of swallowing. At night I still dream, leaping over lands between map creases, the territory beyond memory where we find ourselves running. Police dogs chase our analog sense. Algorithms are digital. Left in code we agree to let lay in rushed moments, chasing synergy through service. Crush the paper pill cup in a clammy palm and pitch it to the heavens over shy cliff. Hope it finds its brethren somewhere in the orange glow of undulate cumulus. Zoppiclone aids the melding together of worlds the label says it should smother, but the thought still misses the mark, and you fill the empty park with choking sobs, trying to force it through. Tornadoes of blue light and shrilling sirens split air like a sauce overladen with oil. Uniform voices press us to the singular, but we shiver into chorus on the backseat, conversing with scenes we perceive in the chattering of police radio. Back on the ward, back off the world, a firmament of 4 a.m. fags glows in the courtyard's dawning. Quieted eyes speak testimonies, shared communion, defy the dogma of our host. Internal choirs spin heretical hymns, accepted within this place, where that this is accepted, whatever it is that this is. There's 2 more poems in the sequence. Initiatrix. Descends to flip the world's inside-outside. My dactylic toe made other marks our point of conjunction. I feel sick. They say I am sickness. Like Feltham for Blake, you shape this place between prison and paradise. Dying shrubs come ashtrays overspilling with knowledge, painfully gained and almost discarded, fighting for breath like lungs chaining roll-ups to roll on time, exhale dust, and drawing the thick air of others. Reformed in the condensed breath into angels lifting us over the ward, out into the sooty night, where each angel of breath is excess consumption, injectors forcing ancient death into chambers idling with power, where each step fractures hillsides into quarry pits, catching detritus like trawler nets scouring the seabed of life. Thrashing against their lines, we resist external definition. Our voices crack with the hurt of being teased apart from the head and the heart's rich mess. Textbooks dust off the sediment of stories, transfigure our lives into symptoms we're told we can target, excise, if we follow the script and swallow the host twice daily. The miracle is loud and goes like this. Quick as a carpet of firecrackers, you combust cacophonously into toxic scraps of paper diagnosed as disease. The image reels like these mock the quack's assertion that as we kill ourselves, we kill our world. As we kill ourselves, we escape their empire, becoming the nexus of their projected fears. More angels appear, helping the one mind leap through others, times and places. Right now, failures of record keeping mean a ghost attends a GP appointment. The worried doctor checks they followed the standard procedures and moves to the next. Last night, 3 teenage housemates were haunted, hearing the ghost tinny music and pill packets rattling the air of a suddenly absent room. A seance of spliffs and shared reassurances relieves the worries until sleep, the ghostly presence lost in the smoke. At a house party, a DJ is trying to fill a ghostly basement void with bodies, 808s and bass weight, pitching deep-cut vibrations from the needle to the room as an exorcism. The ghost trips time as a needle skip, and as it tickles synapses lit up in ecstatic conversation. Eyes flicker around its form in collective minds, and group hugs draw close among the empties and ectoplasm glittering the room's dark corners. My guardian, my archangel brings me back by beating me in the guts. Anxious snakes squirm in the impact's wake, then the whole space fulminates as metaphor. Brick, concrete and chemical chains can't confine us any longer. We exceed skin and sinew and cerebellum. Several theatres make and shape our worlds at once. Several critics provide a running commentary, speaking and acting over and against until we unify conflict as choir. You inside my arms conducting, your brace back, now my back braced in anticipation of the coming crescendo, our hair standing to attention, awaiting transfiguration into selfish marionette. It takes some skill and time within the mirror to sever strings of sinew from emotion, to rethread eyes and lips to mime the mind. It takes tears and recriminations, bolts on doors and through them, hours of thankless truth to learn this trick. Stunted ventriloquism as act of resistance, mumbling tongues strung to the audience's wishes. Shaping the crust up yes required for questions of sleep and appetite being good. That good, so meek it keeps hope neat and empty of energy, fight or flight. It takes some skill to play a part in the theatre for psychopathology, some mouse to subdue mad movements and mind to etiology as ontology. Dipped and furrowed brow, strung to acathesic feet, limbs racking the trunk with invisible sheets. It's a carefully crafted conceit. You sign out signs of lowered risk, they write it into truth. Overhead we soar above the lopsided dialogue, dexterously twitching the strings, our limbs tied to the truth in fiction. As long as glass eyes pass as real, we're free to take our leave. Controlling our face, we shape new worlds. New paths open up before the will that sprung from the split in the bedsit and hospital mirrors. Then missing closeness, I reach out, but as if through clearing smoke, you see the strings that shape my smiling lips' sincerity. You see the me you think you knew grow hazy, and turning away, feel the tug of a wire in your wrist. Losing our grip on the self-deceit required of us in love, we fall apart again.
Not sure. This one? Okay. Still should have been audible, so it's probably a problem with that.
No, this.
Yeah, and this is one.
This is the input for that.
And I think it's a good idea to start there.
Yeah, well, let's still keep the voice up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Agi. Right. Hello, everyone, and everyone else. I finished a PhD here a few months ago and been teaching, and I'm still around. And just to say a few words about ASLI, so the Association for the Study of Literature and the Environment, UK and Ireland, is probably one of the leading environmental humanities bodies in the UK, and the primary affiliation that we have is with the journal Green Letters, and we do conferences, an online seminar series, and hopefully a podcast from early next year. That's kind of happening at the moment, and it's just really exciting for me to be, and have been for a few years now, early career and postgraduate representative. And our president, Dr. John Miller, is actually based here at the University of Sheffield. So it's really exciting times to be a part of ASLI, because it feels like it's quite close. And whenever you want to pester the president, you can just doorstep him, which never happened before. So I'm kind of done a lot of field work as part of my PhD, and because of lockdown and everything, I've been revisiting a lot of my field notes. I've been looking at my old diaries. I've also been reading some new things. I've been researching new things that I've become interested in. I've done a very little teeny tiny bit of field work as well, but I'm basically focusing on extinction as my postdoctoral research. And the poems that I'm reading tonight are more recent pieces that kind of look at either extinct or endangered animals. And the first one I'm going to start with is Angel Shark. So please bear with me, they look quite strange. Sorry, I'm going to show that to the screen as well. Sportina sportina is the scientific name. In the sphotic zone, a word becomes blue water. Distorted field of vision, refracted sound, motionless beams bear down, shadows sink in weighted syntax. A joined body of plastic film reflects the faces of fishes down to the ocean floor. Self-buried in eruption of fins, lie and wait, shark sand-coated, prey on the scraps of an afterthought, avoiding ambush. Rolled in and out of waters, the shape keeps in silence, muted witness to submersible spoliation. Conical bubbles, fleshy filaments attentive to movement, the dredge's net cups inertia, organ of touch, electric fields grasp and gasp webbed water, flattened in crumbling cave, demersal nature, much moon retracts on continental shelf. In bed des anges, split pockets, contagion care on carcasses of creature letters, the confused phantom clapper presses the button. Towing eyes, open tissue, teeth fixated, patterning a sharp gill, cavernous capillaries take air. Trash fish replacements, shredded green film tackles the gaze, kelp contorted with fibrous flesh or fruit pulp. Pretend on a plate, train the eye to kindness. Lyric bathymetry challenges buoyancy. Air-filled callus stretched upon a layered structure's lung. Possibly extinct polygon. Blurred geometrics in the jaws of jurisdiction. Presence uncertain. Benthic trawl, slender tones of leaves freed like ropes. Extractive, the feeling perpetuates. Coming kelp darns the seabed into patchwork quilts of deckhand's ethos. Growing syllables garner meaning, a running stitch whose fine thread frays in increments. The next one I'm going to read is a poem called Pink Sea Fan, and I've never read it before, it's quite recent. It's about a cold water coral that's actually found in the shores around us. So it's quite exciting because when you tell people that there is actually coral in the North Sea, they'll probably say that's insane. But there is quite a lot of there are many types of cold water corals, and they're just as beautiful and majestic as their kind of tropical counterparts. The scientific name is Unicella vericosa. Forest's knotted roots, forms sentient or instinct, epilithic axis structure of speech driven by the current. We learn about benthic light, the beam tasked with breaking. Fused aphotic realm reveals polyps threaded on the structure of a dream. Gorgonia branches outcrops calcified in conversation. Arborescent edifice, a blink of light splinters the body, spread silence, syntactic over time. On continental shelf, we stare out the sea to ghost rituals, hands dexterous and webbed. In water rifts irradiance, measured particles signal punitive absence. Under mesmeric epibiont cover, the absence of heart, a secluded mechanism stretched across full feeling skin, flesh tone, repressed matter, screams its story in coenkyne formation, spicules of silica and stored microparticles. We measure age and gender where sea pork is pressed, extracted. The mesophotic zone resists reflection. Calcareous living tissue, calyces arranged biserially. Roche de large, ecosystem encoded in grace. Rust-held ligatures, care, calcified. Bioconstruction resists loss. As sea snows cascading cosmos melts into the mouths of polyps, a tangled tongue tickles brushed taxonomy. Synchronous night spawn swept towards bodies' minutiae, sunken astral charts, tactile planulae, rewritten by the current. I've been lucky enough to have a poem included in Poetry Birmingham Literary Journal. Oh, wait, there's a warning.
So cancel shutdown.
Sorry. And the lovely editors actually made an effort to include the piece in its form, which is kind of this. It's basically just a square. So I'm going to try to read it, and it's Artemia Selena, which many of you might know under the name of Brian Shrimp. But in nature, they're actually extinct. In the wild, rather, in the salt pans where they used to be used. So I'm just gonna try to read that. I'm just gonna find a way. Salt pan's ice sheet. A sweep stirs Artemia's translucent sleep. Malleable meaning to submersion. Myrrh. Inverted swimmers falter, sink with the flow, the body, an absorptive sac, stalked eyes, severed gaze, a pair of widely separated longitudinal nerve cords, united by double transverse commissures. The root of care that branches in brine, confusing direction. Myrrh, subsumed, a simple heart flickers like a candle on thoracic table of trapped water. A single polystrand squeezes through, square, tear emerged and becoming continuum. Living fossil travels through bodies, trunk, limbs, tape, particulate matter to the food groove, eye-opening, speak. With salt monolith, dorsal side, swim on our backs, stir up sediment, elaborate filters risk clogging. 11 or more trunk segments twist in similarity as interlocked tellurian salt crystals, hygroscopic exchange of micropolymers, myrrh. Walk the finger on dwelling place, rim press its roundness into a square, and swallow what's left of letters, where scuttles sound spells sodium chloride, keeps body from sinking onto another, synonymous in contorted chemical structure, saline, mer, from swim or from within, as rain dilutes the brine, distance is mer, thinned, feathered shadows float elsewhere, cupped in metabolic standstill, not collapsed, just dormant. And I'm just going to end with Edwardsia Iveli, and this is an anemone. It's probably only a few millimeters tall. It's believed to be extinct. It only was discovered in a lagoon a while ago, but it's then been presumed to be extinct because nobody's actually found any more specimens. And yeah, so it's not actually got a name. It's some people call it St. Ivor's anemone, but Edwardsia Iveli. Meet in microtidal lagoon, sheltered by a membrane of metaphors energy, sifts sentiency in vessel. Penny-sized translucencies tease out words of tidal teleology, settle in crumbs, Lego on mysopolyhaline mesh, decipher message sticks, diaphanous engravings dredged from hydroskeleton core, divide tears, territory and triggers, and anchor drops Fiss's exclusive use. Teaches gentle touch, Lego against the push of current, contortion or reaction to transverse bars of pale cream, curved on the aboral side of oxidized zones. Vertical exclusion to mud surface, expanded tentacular crowns radii, repeat introversion in burrowing, Lego, spread on sand dunes. Comprehend castrum as mechanics of being, turbidity etched within photometers reading, unclear levels in soft sediment, quasi-pelagic pools, clay, margin, unmerging. A waterclogged thought passes pathways shallow shift in syllable towards peripheries of meaning, does not fit any known classification. Deridian gift a body, Lego on surface of suspended flux. Stretches precision of words as sedimented sleep is pressed through the earth into shaded bodies, skin deep, doubled in vertical shaft, sharing steered, stalked, Lego limbs on lines waterways, ripple weir connections, threaded tentacle asterisms settle within one another in the logos of silt. Thank you.
Okay. Look at how far away I have to stand not to cut my head off for everyone in there. Quite far away, actually. I hope you can still hear. If I go too close to the mic, I disappear. I'm only going to read two poems, mostly because I don't think you want me to read more when that is how they look on the page. I've been doing a lot of thinking and writing around the idea of the self and the body, and this is more the kind of section where the self and the body is affected by not just the space around it, but specifically its interactions with academic space and institutional space, and how the kind of people and bodies that traditionally don't fit into the sort of white male, Eurocentric, old age kind of structure of things are then affected by that in these kind of post-colonial spaces that were obviously kind of not necessarily designed for the people that now manifest in them. So that is the subject matter of both of the poems, but the first one is particularly concerned with the way kind of power and money and kind of funding shifts around these institutional spaces now, and how that can kind of affect the self. So this one's called Pathways. Torn imposter in all directions, corrupted baby steps, washed away in the sand, the pebble sand, stones that bear no imprint, making change seem silting and ineffectual, self-silting, self as ineffectual, peering into the pool of never enough, money running out of dry eyes. There is so much hypothetical money and nothing touching, nothing taking. It feels green, this envy, this money lust, this if you don't have money, then change cannot be done. That is impurity. Be pure of heart until you run out of breath, run out of efficiency. Whatever you are working on, working in these directions, going nowhere. The baby steps are half slippers now. There is too little movement. Show me what you have achieved. Show me the results of study, inquiry, meeting, discussion. Not sure what was the least inefficient at that moment, but everyone is dry of money. Money, knock your teeth in. Impolite society, not an improvement. If society wants money, can caring not be enough? It has to be enough, because otherwise standing on these pebbles is ineffective. Pointless, never say pointless, or pebbles rain down on your head. This is caring. Caring keeps you awake. Caring until the cows come in, caring until home, caring where home is, caring where someone else feels at home. Home takes money, is green around the edges, is green at the gills, green fingers rummaging, making baby prints in all directions, stretching out towards faceplant. One hand down in no direction, glued to the ground, gravity. This is floating in the air like money, hypothetical, somewhere, not here. Paved into the walkways that don't remember these baby steps, made over and over again without imprint, inefficient in each direction. It is green to be so hopeful, less they are a cycle of can't do this. Bring in another one to stand on the sand, the pebble stand, the stone, the paving, fresh laid and set to look like sand, like it is movable, changeable. Be the change you want to see, but quietly. Or very loud, but in both directions, ineffectively. Your ineffectuality is the problem. Your inadequacy, your hypothetical need for money and naivety, your lack of focus, going in every direction, only taking baby steps and not diving into seas. This is not inspirational. What these walls were made for, walls made by, who for? What has this made for? Imposters all around, self-silting and ineffectual, asking for money. Don't you see it's all around if you know where to look for it? If your looking was not ineffectual like the sand under your gravity, where is your pool of thought? What is your study, if never enough? Self-imposed ineffectuality, show me the steps of your inquiry, show the adequacy of your argument without the inefficiency, the green around your eyes like sickness. It makes everyone sick, all this talk of money, the audacity. What sort of sand and half steps could deserve it? What a lot of hypothetical movements going nowhere, propped against the stone and the walls that are built by us caring. Can't you see the money is being spent on caring, caring about your pavements and your walkways, for all of your inefficient baby steps, your pebbles of thought scattering, kept in by these walls we left for you to think in. Ineffectually, after all this time, at least work on your inefficiency before you come talking about money and envy, making yourself an imposture to our walkways of study, of caring, of having the right mentality to get the results required without all this inefficiency, that drowning noise in the pool, distracting from the baby steps, that hypothetical improvement that there could have been if it were not for all your pointless inefficiency drying up the well of wealth we placed on these four walls that should have been your pulpit of perfect thought. But all there are pools of sand and drying tears that should have cared more about the walk into society instead of all of this wasted time and endless inefficiency. Take the self out of center, decay the edges of the narrative. This is giving back, nurturing the cause, the body of the institution. This is who the focus is for, the natal, the lifeblood passion. The lost go back to the back of the line. There is more dynamism here to focus on, more efficiency in the free spirit clocking in and out, and drawing the money in silent and with progress, giving in back to the body and the society, the hypothetical replacements of yourself shifted out of center. There should be no center that does not shift around the institution and its sands, its timely cycles, the compulsory rebirths each third year. Being greedy is for leeches. They come here already full of blood and not empty, green around the edges and wanting money, greedy and ineffective. With their working logic, work in progress, nothing. A cerebral imposter knows who he, she, they are, should know their limits and not take too much time at the center, institution, corrupting the cycle with their insufficient thought flow, their half-cut steps to nowhere, and their crying out in every ineffectual direction, theories built on sand when we have solid stone step walls to pass through barely noticed. As you progress your inner study and keep yourself and yourselves to the edges of the painting, not to clog the veins of forward motion and hypothetically drain the money. institution with so much inefficiency. This is not a place for baby steps. Hurry through the pool of waiting faces, taking time to enter here and sit between the walls you take up with withering in your wasted time. So that's the first one. I've been here, unfortunately for all of you who've heard me read through my BA, my MA, and now my PhD, it has not got the tiniest bit more upbeat or optimistic. I think this one is slightly a fraction more upbeat than the last one. I've started writing sort of poems in response to moments within academic space that I feel like are particularly evoking of poetry. So this one was after a lecture by Gurram Singh talking about pedagogies of love and how teaching can turn away from the kind of old ways that it's been kind of aimed at being very kind of clinical and structured into being more accessible for all sorts of people. So this one's called Chasing Pedagogies of Love. This is marking the moment, not prescriptively in red, but in yellow-green, softly pushing out the bruise, making unhollow the vessel that is wielded around the space, the classroom, creative outline of the body that lends its contents telescopically into the learning space, the zoom thought bubble room, the cyber somewhere, hackable, vulnerable bubble of collective thought. Is this what you say? Putting spirit back into the classroom? Is this that remystified space? I still feel tethered to the white walls and office blocks, red brick dust collecting in the corners of my eyes with the late spring pollen. Here there is space for the pollen, and that is mystifying. But I feel it, that itch, that guilt, terminally implicated, and I feel us keeping the blimp afloat with our own hot gases. These airs are breathable because of the lack of recycled breath. This is tolerable, because it was not made for the theatre and there are no other faces to watch making the wrong expression. Can a person, hand, take apart the house, body they live in? We look so dry and warm, each spaced out across the stretch like this. Each in a burrow and accessible, accessed, brought into the video loop. This is already threading into the archive of this place. We are all embedded in the catacombs of something grave and pensive. The white stone arched underbelly of what is visible in plain sight, the crumbling is imperceptible. And choosing stones from under feet is tricky hopscotch. There will be more broken ankles above ground than not. I am not sure if I'm qualified to dismantle the house, not sure that I'm unqualified to do so, dragging around something that weighs on both sides. Throwing stones at bric-a-brac is all I can think of, smashing things with unknown origins without my fingerprints lacquered in. The magics are leaving out of the windows in droves. The windows are shut, and that makes it go faster. The leakage sweating down the brick, crying through the pot, double glazing. But Nzalbarong cannot touch the skin. The worship is fleeing with every page turned, touched, considered. This anthropology of mine is learning itself out of certainty in the library, clinic. The breath space begins when the thinking buzz is low and unified, focused on a frequency. But the waves are wall-proof and the space reflects the same, with little gaps for people to duck in under the glass roof. The fizzy excitement is partly nothing getting out when something new is rolled out through the halls. How do you conjure this type of well-planned space with so much multi-purpose room for streamlining the process? The electricity only wavers tangibly in nooks, the palms that cradle specified, barely published intentions, trying to manifest Ubuntu between light-paneled spaces. The intelligence is grouted in, deep-taught assumption that the walls are sodden with. We might be creating a micro-ecosystem and drinking each other's waters, categorize the ones that reach to steep the external layer, stagnant and try-approved. The distillation and filtration are overkill through cyber shields and igneous rock. The liquid data pools prove stiller than was ever seen, logically still, unmoving and not radiant. The sparkle is all font type and directed binding, the costly process of binding things into existence, and dust, the layer lacks familiarity. The dust of bodies is removed so silently after hours with no eyes to come watching. Accountability misplaced. The chair I'm on is dismantled more easily than the concrete floor. I leave ribs to hold the spine of it, the soles of my feet and thumbs, shedding slips of macro dust, bits of someone semi-qualified for disassembly, destruction. Holding hands with other demolition crews seems like a relic of the dewy past and a constant future of the reimagined spiritual realm. The telescopic telepathy is broken. There is no one in the room. The space was never shared.
Thank you, Loma. I loved your ominous address of the Zoom audience. Sorry about that, guys. She's really nice normally. Thank you so much. So what we're going to do is, what I would love our readers to do is just stick around a little bit, because we've got lots of current MA students. So if you guys have the courage and fancy a chat with them, that would be lovely. Otherwise, the time is 20 minutes. Shall we say we aim to come back in 5 minutes and start the date no later than past? Yeah? Okay, thank you. Great.
I didn't say something like just gonna allow me not my this funny because this was awesome. Thank you.
Adam is joining.
Okay.
Yeah,